So I grew up, I was born in Prince Edward Island, and we moved to Montreal when I was about 6 or 7. And everybody in my neighborhood spoke French. I grew up in the Plateau, the Mile End of Montreal. It's called Mile End. And everybody spoke French, so I had to learn French really quickly. And there was a law then that you had to go to French schools if you were English speaking. So I went to French school. And then I think a year later, my mother found this really good alternative school called FACE, which is like a fine arts, it stands for Fine Arts Core Education. And it was the best experience of my life. It was like, at the time I didn't know it, but it was like all these people that grew up with like artist parents. So we were all like, you know, we had bands, I played saxophone, we had choir. But so the great part about the school is that it was the people I met there, you know. And we were, at that time, I just thought everybody was like that in life. And we had these, you know, crazy parties. And it was very kind of, at that time, everybody was very free. Like we didn't have, none of our parents really applied very much discipline, you know. And I didn't grow up with a TV, so I spent a lot of time, you know, with my friends and doing my own projects, you know, doing my own, you know, so at a very young age, actually before I moved to Montreal, I used to do these, like, you know, get dressed up and do these dance things to my mother's records. And she had the B-52's Planet Claire record, or Rock Lobster, and she had Janis Joplin. And so there was always really good music playing in the house. So, you know, Montreal's music scene was, you know, there's a lot of talent, but not necessarily at the time. There wasn't necessarily so many, you know, ways that you can make a living as a musician. And then my mother was like, oh, why don't you go to Berklee College of Music? You should audition. And I was like, I don't want to go to Boston. Boston is boring. So, but I ended up doing the audition. And, you know, I didn't think I'd get a scholarship because I had been doing music, you know, since then. I had studied, you know, classical music and I studied jazz. But so finally I decided to do this audition, and I got a scholarship, a pretty substantial scholarship. And I went down there, checked out the school, got stuck in this really bad snowstorm on the way down there. And it took us like 8 hours when it should have taken 5. And it was really cool. There was like this kind of a fame vibe, you know, at Berklee when I went there. There was just like this concert, and there was this guy performing, and he was like Michael Jackson. And I was like, okay, I'll try this. I'll give it a shot. Yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. And then I used to, I got this gig. I sent out some of my songs to this guy in Philadelphia. And the label was Rough Nation Records at the time. And he liked my stuff. So I went out there, and Kanye West was there with this vocalist who sounded like Etta James. And Kanye West he was already making money at the time, but he wasn't an artist at that point. So I was kind of recording my stuff, and then they were doing their stuff, but we all hung out together for like 3 or 4 days. So then I moved to New York, and moved to Williamsburg. Found this apartment above, when the apartments were still affordable in Williamsburg. And I started actually doing shows with this band I had at the time, who Rie was playing keys and Nikki was playing drums, who eventually were playing with Beyonce. They were in the girl group with Beyonce. And we had a band, and we used to play at the Cutting Room when Steve used to have a spot downtown. And we used to play in the front of the Cutting Room in the winter. It was really bad weather. And we'd go play these shows at the Cutting Room. I remember that. And then eventually Rie and Nikki started playing with Beyonce. So, but I've worked with really great producers. And then what happened is I realized that a lot of these songs were in my head, and that I actually knew how to play them myself. I just needed to get musicians to play them. But I could hear everything. I could hear the song. So finally I started getting together with friends that played guitar, because I don't play guitar, and just, you know, telling them how I heard it. And it would just be guitar voice, you know. And then I'd bring in the band, and I'd tell them what to play. So Christian Kennedy and me met about we met in Boston when I was studying at Berkeley, and he was playing at Wally's, which is this kind of local jazz bar. And he caught my eye, you know, for some reason. I was just like, he had this kind of, you know, vibrant soul, and he was just like, and I was like, I liked the way he played. I really liked his style. So I was like, hey, do you want to try and work on some music and produce some stuff? And that's how it all started. We started working together and writing things, and it was like, okay, I think we were both like kind of developing our styles and stuff, and we kept working together. And then we kind of lost touch because I moved to New York and I started working with other people, and he was in Boston. And then finally, we kind of reconnected, and you know, I had kind of started this band thing, and I was like, hey, do you want to try and, you know, help me arrange these and play on them? And then he started doing it, and then I started like telling him, well, I have this other song and I have this guitar, and can you hear? And he was like so on point on hearing exactly what I was hearing in my head, and he was writing the song exactly how I heard it. It's really hard. It's really hard to find somebody that can hear how you hear the song, or that can hear your vision. It's really hard, or else you have to do it yourself. And being that I'm not really, I'm considered a producer, but I'm not a player. So for me, I think the main people would be Janis Joplin. You know, such a vibrant, incredible singer, performer, activist. You know, she just has, you know, she's an amazing person overall. Bob Marley, for sure. Bob Marley is an incredible, you can't say he's just a great writer. He's just a great, you know, great soul, great everything. And then Led Zeppelin. There's so many, but Jimi Hendrix. The early B-52s, so Rock Lobster, Planet Claire, Dances Mess Around. Jimmy Cliff, The Harder They Come, Many Rivers to Cross, Peter Tosh, Toots and the Maytals, some of like the Brit groups, Clash, The Who, Dead Kennedys. I don't listen to any music on the radio. I mean, if I'm working on a spot, you know, for a commercial and they have a reference, I can do that, but most of the time I never listen to current music because I think that it's all derived from old music anyways. Most of the music we hear now is ripped off from everything that's already existed. So I try to avoid that. Unless it's, you know, the job requires, okay, we want it to sound like, you know, I don't know, whoever, so-and-so. So the music business has changed, and people are all trying to figure out how can they make a living, you know. I actually got my first job working for this Australian company. This guy heard me singing, and he hired me, and I started getting work with them a lot, like almost every week. I was working with them, singing different TV commercials. And then, and this one other friend of mine was like, he wasn't sure he was going to hire me. And when he started seeing I was working for them, he was like, oh, well, we got to get you on this. And then, you know, so then the woman from Mattel really liked me. And then I got introduced by my friend Ken, who I met with today, to this bigger company. And then at the time, I really needed to make some money. I was like, you know, I know if I get this, I'll make some good money. So I studied Hayden Panettiere, and I, you know, studied her, and I said, okay. And then I already made up my mind that I was going to win the spot. And so I wrote this song, and she liked it. She liked mine. So so that's been playing for almost, I don't know, a year and a half now. It's been playing a lot. And I've done a lot of stuff, different commercials, and writing commercials, and I got into, you know, actually writing spots, and, you know, which is actually really fun because then you can be more creative, and it's great. I mean, as long as you can make money being a musician, you know, and now I'm getting into, you know, doing more music for film. which will be fun too. Like trying to get writing songs for like major spots, like feature films, and yeah. And then hopefully the band will be a part of, but I want to continue working with the band, writing the songs with the band, in other words, writing the songs and having the band play them and continue working like that. Because I think the music will speak for itself. I think if we continue writing good songs, people will enjoy to come and hear good songs.